Got it.
You got it. Good stuff. Okay. We're going to click on to the next one now. Advance. That's it. Oh, yes, that's me there. Yes, I'm NetSquared organizer for our Midlands, which is sort of the Birmingham, Central England meetup group. Been active for about 3 years or so now. And also the regional ambassador for the UK and Europe. I'll skip that one. Okay, so what's always good is to try to have what we try to do is have a bit of a I suppose longer medium term sort of plan for our forthcoming meetups. On the left there that you can see is one of our scribble boards. This is another little sort of technique, is that we always have a whiteboard up at the side of the room during our meetups, where people can scribble things down during the session. Maybe one of the co-organisers or presenters will use it just as like a scratch pad to keep notes, to record things that the whole group can take away, can contribute to and share with. And then that's the sort of thing, as you can see there, we take a photo of it at the end of the evening, and it's there as a record of some of those sort of random thoughts and conversations that might otherwise have escaped us. Also a really good tool then to be able to use when planning future meetups, if we've got that record of what people talked about and what people are interested in. We do try to keep sort of 3 meetups ahead, really, sort of our meetups for the next 3 months. And as it says there, the second point there, it helps attendees to plan. We all have busy lives in our non-profit organisations, and having a bit of a schedule in your calendar really does help. So if you can't make it to this meetup, the current meetup this month, then you've got dates for the next 2 or 3, and it does help when that pesky meeting comes in from a client or somebody. At least you can say, well, you know, in March or April I've got a NetSquared event I'm going to, so it just helps schedule and organise lives. I know this varies around the world with different sort of favourite tools and techniques. We use Slack as our planning tool. I know some people use LinkedIn, Facebook. It does vary, and some people do that good old getting together face to face to talk and plan. But we find Slack works really well as a way for the co-organisers to share ideas for meetings, to share venues, speakers, and just those little sort of conversations that you all need to have when planning a meetup. So I know people will share different tools that they use. It'll be interesting to hear what works well. Various different formats that we've tried and used for events for our meetups over the past 3 or 4 years. Briefly, I know Will and Eli, you've got some thoughts about these as well, but we can go into those after I've gone through this bit, and we can always go back and discuss some of these in more detail. But briefly, surgery is where we'll have a sort of a one-to-one, maybe 1 to 2 between a person who knows a little bit about social media or technology. Hate to use the word expert because none of us really are. We all just have learned other things along the way. And they'll sort of do a sit down 1-to-1 with somebody who's got questions, maybe a small non-profit organisation just getting started with Facebook or storytelling, and they've got some questions about the basics of how to. So that 1-to-1, often very practical, helping somebody through maybe setting up a Facebook page for the first time, or giving them a bit of advice and help on WordPress, really works well, because at the end of the evening they go away with their questions answered and a solution to whatever it was that they were asking at the beginning. Show and tell format is where we get non-profit organisations to stand up and just give a quick sort of this is what I wanted to do, this is how I've used technology, and to really sort of explain it through a practical example of their website maybe, or how they're using CRM. It's a very sort of practical sharing around the room session where people can contribute from their own experience. Presentations are as it sort of says, really fairly obvious, a more sort of formal session where somebody will stand up and give maybe a 20-minute or so talk about a particular topic, whether that be the sort of the latest important thing that's coming out in the world of technology, and how non-profits can use it. So it's a bit more of an educational session, I guess. And then practical on there is a bit of a sort of, some of these do sort of cross over between each other. Practical is a splitting the evening up into different sections where there'll be a presentation and then a practical hands-on session as well. In this example here in the picture, it's one of our speakers there talking about, it's actually a storytelling session, using video for storytelling. And we had a talk at the beginning and then broke up into small groups and did some practical how to use the camera on your phone, upload to YouTube, and then get an audience to participate and join in and watch those videos. And what we try to do is through the year is break up the types of meetups. So one month we'll do a surgery, the next month we'll do a show and tell, and then maybe a practical session, and then go back to do a surgery, just so that the format changes and people get plenty of different opportunities to attend different formats. Something else when planning content for sessions is to be mindful of our audience. And I think Eli's got a question about that. Just interesting to know what type of people attend your meetups. In our case, I could honestly say it probably varies every time between that mix of non-profit organisations, charities, and tech startups, so digital organisations. And we find it's really interesting that a lot of the attendees from the tech startup world want to use technology for good, want to know how they can practically help organisations from the non-profit world with their questions, with their knowledge, of technology. So we do find it's a really good meeting point, a crossroads between technology organisations that want to share and non-profit organisations that want to learn. And I'm sure you've all got different sort of mixes along that scale of the two. Yes, Eli.
Paul, why don't we use this as a good chance to actually learn a bit about who's showing up at each one of our groups, and also do this as a moment to have some quick introductions. So why don't I just do a quick round with the group, and basically here's what I want to do. It's going to look a lot like this. You're going to just go, hi, my name is Eli. I'm the organizer of the Vancouver, Canada group. And I would say, looking at my attendees, that it's about 3/4 people from small, scrappy startup nonprofits. I used to have much more technical people showing up, but I scared them all away intentionally with super introductory topics, and they got bored and went away. And that was, for my group, the better. So that's sort of me. Paul, why don't you model it? What's your group like?
My group probably varies. I would say at the moment we're probably getting more people from the non-profit community. It also varies, and I'm sure other people will share this. As we're a number of universities in our city, we do sort of notice a difference throughout the year as university students want to come along to attend, both to share their knowledge and to learn about how they can put their skills to use in the non-profit world. So probably 50-50, I would say, just to be in the middle.
Cool. Let's keep going through the people here on video, and then we'll move to the phone. Carmen in South Africa in Cape Town, why don't you give us a quick intro? Oh, sounds like you're on mute, Carmen. Could you try that one more time? All right, we'll give you a moment to sort that out. Why don't we jump to Carolyn to do a quick introduction? All right, we're cursed here today. For those who I can't reach by voice, please throw your introduction into the chat window. Vanessa, can we get you on today?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes.
Got it.
Great, okay. Yeah, apologies for being a bit late. I help run the NetSquared group in Victoria, BC. And the majority of our group are definitely non-profits, smaller ones that want to learn as much as they can because they're wearing all the hats and don't know usually the technical side of things to their best advantage. We do generally hold our events in, it's actually in a tech startup shared building. So it's interesting, we get some people finishing work and joining the event sort of ad hoc, and they find it interesting too. And some people want to perhaps help invest in other people. And some people have new apps or websites or solutions that they think can help people there too. And yeah, we get some students too, looking for opportunities or experience. So it's a good mix.
Awesome. Welcome. Maran, I'm trying to unmute you. Are you able to come in today by voice?
Yeah.
Got it.
Listening? Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Madan Krishna Pradhan from Nepal. I'm organizing the Tech for Good Eastern Nepal community in Nepal. I've just started. It's kind of the second meetup we have tomorrow. I mean, today, I think it's nearly 1 a.m. in the morning.
Oh,
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. After I finish this, I shall sleep for being refreshed. Okay. I'm most of the participants are NGOs employees. I've been gathering around and sourcing for NGOs around in our city. Preparing for getting and bringing up new participants more and more. Thank you.
excellent. Well, thank you for staying up so late. Next on the video, I've got Serkan.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Got it.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, I just, it was a long day and I just saw the notification and just wanted to join. Yeah, next week we are going to have our first meeting in Amsterdam. And it's 40 plus people joined already, attending, it looks like. So it's pretty exciting. And let's see how it goes, yeah. And I didn't want to miss this meeting, even though I'm a little bit late. So yeah, not sure what I missed right now, but
We're just diving in, don't worry, and we'll
Okay,
also
perfect.
share the video afterwards. Anyways, good luck with tomorrow's first event. And I think 40 RSVPs for your first event is really a strong start.
yeah, definitely.
So I've got also in video, I've got Stanislas. Let's see.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
All right. How about for some of the others who we skipped before, Carmen and Carolyn? Are either of you able to come join us? No. Okay. Sorry about that. Sometimes, you know, video chats are always a bit of a curse. Let's move to the phone. And I've got Susan Tenby here, actually, from TechSoup and Caravan, who would love to talk.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. we
Hi.
can.
So I'm here with Caravan Studios. We're a division of TechSoup. Just to give you guys a little bit of background on me, I've been doing online community and community management, community organizing my whole career. In my role at Caravan Studios, I'm basically running the online and offline community and partnerships through predominantly an Apps for Change demo series called the Public Good App House. We've been doing these Public Good App House demo events for a couple of years now. And we had a conference in DC in November, and we are back to doing monthly events. We will be doing them this year regionally, but also virtually, which is why I wanted to talk to you guys. So we have one coming up February 2nd in San Francisco. These are all going to be filmed and live streamed, but we also plan to hold some Apps for Change. We're now rebranding them, by the way. They're no longer called Apps for Change events. I have to fix that in the way I talk about it, but Public Good App House demo events. And we'll be holding some of them virtually starting next month. So if you're familiar with any public good technology, and it's not just about mobile apps, like for example, we have 2 chatbots in the coming event. So if you are familiar with any public good technology, any tech for social benefit that you think might fit, let me know. And we're happy to feature people from other countries and other regions, other states in the US, in our apps for in our Public Good App House demo events virtually. They're going to be on, those virtual ones will be held on Zoom, just like this. And then the regional ones, so far we only have them scheduled in the San Francisco Bay Area, but if we get funding, we can come and have them in other places.
Fabulous. And I'm really excited that you'll be able to bring some of those to Zoom so we can bring in other people. Once you're ready to start recruiting and send out those links, I'll make sure that gets out to the NetSquared organizer community.
Great. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for me or? Nope. Feel free to email me those, susan@caravanstudios.org.
Sure. Quick question for you, Susan. I know there's been some talk about basically wrapping up your best practices so that others could actually host similar events in their own communities. Is that something you're prepared to do at the moment, or is that still a future plan?
That's a really good question. I think that is a future plan, but I could kind of accelerate it if it's something that people have interest in.
Yeah, if people are interested in doing this kind of demo events, definitely reach out to me and I'll make sure I pass that interest on to Susan.
Thank you.
Going through others who are on the phone, I've also got Safako. Are you able to join us? Don't hear anything yet. I've also got someone who goes by AC when they signed in.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
And I'm Augustus. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Why don't you give us a quick introduction with your name, your city, and who's showing up at your events?
Hi there, I'm Augustus and I run the NetSquared Mumbai. And what we get to see is that I actually run the largest OSS community in Bombay, and we host a lot of the tech events. And as I thought, we take it a little bit well off. So how do we help the NGOs and the nonprofits? And that's how we kind of teamed up with you and the NetSquared guys to do this. See, most of the audience I get is a spillover from our tech events. So they're very highly technically advanced people joining us. The folks from the NGOs and the nonprofits, those are the guys I'm missing at our NetSquared meetup. So I'm trying to look and explain, how I can participate.
Right,
So
yeah, so you have, sorry, go ahead.
I look at it, the tech group partner, that is the National Foundation, how we can leverage them to make sure our meetups are attended. Because here's the funny situation. We have guys who want to help. We don't have guys who need the help.
Right, so you actually have a very technically savvy audience. And I used to have that in my Vancouver group. And one way I found I changed that was actually to be very intentional about the events I scheduled. So I, for 6 months, only had nonprofits presenting case studies. So I actually really pushed the technical people into the audience, and that helped change the attendee ratio and it helped attract more nonprofits. But yeah, I'll also follow up with you afterwards to talk about how we can leverage the TechSoup partner in India as well. Is there any other people who haven't had a chance yet to do a quick introduction? Excellent. Well, then it's back to you, Paul. Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone for sharing your comments. Of course, the chat window is still available too if you didn't have a chance to participate.
Okay. Can everybody still see the screen? Yeah? Good. Okay. What I'm I'm going to do is, as I'm going through, actually, I think there are quite a lot of jumping off points where people may want to step in with their thoughts about each of my my slides and things that I'm sharing about how we organise meetups. So maybe if you do the old nudge Eli with a question, or jump in and let us know, and we'll try and pick those up as we're going through. Okay. So next thing, just to briefly sort of talk about, is how do you source topics for meetups? And I think I had this conversation with you last night, Eli, when we were talking about this. Where it says other meetups, basically the NetSquared website and all the meetups that are listed and shared on there is such a fantastic global resource of topics, people's presentations, people's resources. So obviously with respect and attribution where necessary, have a look at some of the other meetups that are going on around your region, maybe in your city, your country, or globally, and have a look if there are ideas and resources that you can pick up on from there. Don't feel shy about sharing and borrowing, and sharing back to the community, obviously, of course. The top tech topics and trends, which is something that's easy for people to say, probably earlier in the day at 7:30 in the evening here, and 1 a.m. where you are, then it's probably a bit more difficult to say that one. And I know that this is something that you're planning in the NetSquared meetup in Amsterdam, which unfortunately I can't get to, but that looks really interesting. I'll be interested to see the outputs from that one. So what are the top topics around technology in your region? I think in Amsterdam there's been a survey across the Netherlands of what non-profits are saying their needs and where they stand with use of technology. Very small, scrappy non-profits. So find out what those topics are and base sessions around that. That's where your audience are likely to be. Attendee suggestions, back to that whiteboard that I showed earlier on. So when people come to meetups, ask them what they want to talk about in future ones. Have a list of the topics that people are interested in and try and base sessions around those. And then the fourth one on there is, I guess, as organisers, we're in a slightly privileged position, if that's right. So if there's a topic that we want to learn a bit more about, then, why don't we go out and put that on the agenda, find a speaker. So at least you'll be sure that there'll be 2 or 3 people, the organisers, who are going to benefit from the session, even if the rest of the audience, if it goes over their heads or they're not interested, at least we've learned something. So sometimes pick a topic that you're going to learn from as an organiser.
Paul, that's what I do almost half the time.
You taught me well. Okay, so topics. Presenters, similar, I suppose, to the previous one. Who are the best people to present? So people from the audience. Maybe you've got people who are budding speakers within your meetup group. So very gently, don't sort of force them into it, but very gently ask them if they'd be willing to stand up and present. Maybe just a short session, not sort of an hour long or a whole evening, but just to share something to kick off a discussion. Gently sort of ease them into it, and before too long they'll be standing up there doing the whole evening and organising their own meetups in another part of the country. You never know. Local non-profits who are doing good, that's sort of back to the show and tell sort of format that I mentioned at the beginning. Getting local non-profit organisations to present how they've implemented a particular technology solution or a tool that they're using. Ask them if they can speak about it. And tech companies with a big asterisk at the end there, as you can see. I don't mind that. I'm quite happy to have tech companies presenting. But we do need to sort of throw in the big caveat there about making sure, certainly, and this might be different around the world, and I'd be interested to hear people's views on this, but to not have evenings sort of be turning into sales pitches and presenters giving away business cards and all sorts of things just to woo you into their particular tool or their particular website. So whilst I think it's important that we do know what the latest technology solutions and directions are for our audience, for our non-profit audience, what we don't want is it for us just to be sold something and given the hard sell in a meetup. And there on that slide, that's I think that's me there, yes. And that's actually Pauline, who's my co-organizer for our NetSquared meetup in Birmingham. So this is a tech conference presenting. Any thoughts on that? Do you want to jump in with anything, Eli, there? Or?
Well, I would say, yeah, that finding that right balance with people from local technology companies and consultants can be challenging. But I also find that they can make really good polished presenters. And I always make sure that I have a good phone call with those corporate presenters before the meeting, just to be very sure that the topic of the presentation is very much focused on general best practices, knowing, of course, that the case studies they will often pull on are going to sometimes touch their product or their clients. And I think I'm okay with that. But I think you're right. We need to just find that balance so it doesn't become a pitch, but rather becomes a generalized best practice that is not tied to a particular tool.
Yeah. Okay. The venue, this is sort of going off in a slightly different direction, but always make sure that your venue is suitable for the type of presentation that you want to give or the type of meetup that you want to organize. So if it's a surgery session, a one-to-one surgery session, then a format sort of casually around easy chairs, tables works well. So make sure that your venue is suitable and can handle that. And if you want to give a big presentation, then this is an amazing venue in Birmingham with one of the largest screens that I've ever sort of stood in front to present from. And that's a tech venue in Birmingham with a superb audio, visual, and technology setup there. And of course, cake. Don't forget that every good meetup needs to feed the mind and also feed the appetite as well. So if that's possible, then organise cake, biscuits, teas, coffees, all sorts of refreshments to help people feel that that they're not coming to an environment that they're not comfortable with, but actually we're all friends really in a meetup, and we're all trying to learn and share and be part of the same Tech for Good family.
Vanessa, can I put you on the spot to actually talk about how the group in Victoria deals with the snack situation?
Yeah, we generally have someone volunteer to go and get a selection of foods, and then we also have a few good bakers in our team as well, and we have someone really does a good job of making homemade cookies or a cake or something. So that always goes down really well, adds a nice little touch. So yeah, and then we have veggies and things and some healthy options too. Try to have some, a spread of dietary needs. So yeah.
Now, I love how your group sort of assigns as one of the volunteer roles that someone is a baker and that there's been recipe exchanges going on at the meetups. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Paul, and thank you.
Okay, and yeah, that's actually what also makes a meetup work really well. Is all of you, everybody who's on this call, that chap in the middle there. Some of you may know him. So that was a gathering that we had in London just before last fall, where the meetup organisers from across the UK got together for a session to learn and share from each other. Sort of slightly going off topic, but I think that's worth mentioning that we all work really hard as organisers every month, and sort of in the weeks intervening in between the meetups to plan events, to find venues, to find speakers, to organise all the logistics of making sure the badges are printed if you do that, making sure that those cakes are made. But actually we need time together as meetup organisers to learn from each other, to have some sort of, not quite downtime, but some learning time when we can share ideas between us and network across a country or if possible across a wider area, and share what's worked well and learn from each other. I don't know if that's possible all the time. I know you do it, I think, with your meetups, is that right, Eli? And try to get some of them together.
Yeah, I'll bring my organizers together for a couple planning meetings throughout the year. Plus, sometimes we're just going to go out for drinks and just socialize. Because I think you're totally right, especially us for organizers who are otherwise always the hosts at our events. It's sometimes just to get a chance to like debrief with our co-organizers or meet up with other organizers. So in this case, I was on holidays. I was passing through London, so I took that opportunity to meet up with other organizers. And I've done that when I'm on vacation in other cities as well. So I highly encourage you, if you're ever on a holiday, to just like in the middle of it say, is there a NetSquared group in that city? Maybe I should organize just an hour coffee meeting with that local organizer, because it can be super fun. I know like the group in Houston actually once had the organizer from Melbourne, Australia come through town and do a guest presentation. And so it's a fun opportunity for us to really bring the network together.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I'd recommend. I always keep one eye on the NetSquared calendar on the homepage of the NetSquared website, which has got all the meetups forthcoming around the world. And as you say, if you're visiting another city in your country for an event, or maybe not a holiday, that is going well above and beyond there, Eli, but that's good. But if you're visiting elsewhere in the country for a tech conference or a meeting, then just have a look if there's a meetup in that area, because organisers do like to have guests dropping in from another city. It really does sort of show that we are all working together. So it's good tip there. This is just a list here that I looked through meetups that we've organised in the UK in recent months, and some of the ones that are in the calendar for the next 2 or 3 months. Just I suppose to give people some sort of idea of where our community is going. I know this will be different in different parts of the world. So things like GDPR, global data protection, is something that doesn't necessarily apply. General data protection isn't something that necessarily applies in every country, but that's something that's a hot topic in the UK, in Europe at the moment, about making sure that our non-profits are adhering to the new legislation that will be coming into force later this year. Cyber security, there's 2 or 3 meetups. I've got that on their calendar, and that's something that's very important. Content creation and storytelling probably go together. If you're a small non-profit, you need to be able to tell your story, to share the work that it is, the work that you're doing, in a really uplifting and impactful way. I know the TechSoup run their Story Makers competition every year, which is a really good way to showcase some of those videos. So when we did this storytelling session last year, we had a session. We had a period of the meetup where we played some of those videos from previous years, just to get that message across about how video can tell a great story. Facebook, and I suppose lump in and throw in all social media there really. Facebook changes. There's been recent changes to Facebook in the past sort of month or so, and non-profit organisations are always asking how they can best make use of these tools. So maybe through a surgery session or a presentation, just to bring us really. I mean, we often need to know that as well. Bring us up to date with the latest developments and the latest way that social media websites can be used for good. Susan, you've mentioned about app development, something that keeps coming up as being a hot topic. It's not in the UK, I don't think, but there is a session on app development, I think, with one of our European meetups. And very other, you can see on the various other ones. I won't go through all of those in detail, but a whole range of different topics just from our meetups. Is it worth throwing it back open to see whether or not people have got any thoughts about those, or any topics that other people would like to share that they're going to be shortly running a meetup about, or one that's gone well in the past?
Yeah, I'd love to hear from some of you about what you see as some of like the emerging hot topics in your community. Like, what are people really responding to right now? Well, shy people.
Anything coming in on the chat?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm seeing coming in here, and I think this is a really hot topic actually coming from Mumbai. Online privacy and security is obviously been a major topic emerging for the last couple of years. And I think that is something that is really worth everyone's time. TechSoup has actually got an interesting little like 10-step guide for very basic like security, just around like password storage and things like that. And I think that could work out really well.
Yes,
go ahead.
That's a tool. Okay, so that's a tool that I carry around. Actually, that TechSoup guide is really good, and it's a really handy thing. You can print off a copy or put it on a flash drive and hand it out to people. It's really good.
Cool. And from the Carolyn in the chat, she's talking a lot about how social media strategy topics are really big, as is new online fundraising, SEO, and topics like that. But I think, yeah, social media strategy is continually the most popular topic whenever we survey the global attendees of NetSquared. Paul, why don't I just show people a quick case study of how I assembled my recent event and sort of the steps I followed to make that happen.
That's a perfect time to do that, as that was pretty much where I was going to go, apart from showing some example meetups. So yes, if you want to flash over to yours, I'll stop sharing and then you bring your screen up.
I think I'm just going to take right over.
Okay, there you go.
Perfect. So, awesome. So let's sort of talk about a topic I recently did here in Vancouver. I did the nonprofit technology trends for 2018 event. And actually it was quite successful here in Vancouver. We had 60 attendees, which is the most we'd had in 2 years. So it really resonated with our community. And I think part of that is because I did an approach where I brought in a lot of different presenters. So what I did, because I'm lazy, is I basically crowdsourced the whole event. So all I did is say, let me find 5 different presenters and give each one of them 10 minutes to talk about their favorite emerging technology trend for the next year. Here on the organizer's handbook, you'll see I've sort of made it nice and easy, where I've got a graphic you can put on Meetup. I've got event titles and a description that you can cut and paste right into your Meetup just to make things nice and quick and easy. And then for inspiration, there's a couple blog posts with some other people's thoughts about what the emerging trends are. But I, of course, am looking for local presenters, so I was looking for local experts. So what I did is I popped into my Facebook page, and I basically put in a question just saying, what do you think are the emerging trends? And then I tagged in a whole bunch of my past presenters, as well as other people who are in the nonprofit space here in the city. And so I basically just got all their attention. And I would definitely recommend that you always try and reach out to past presenters, because they've already shown that they're eager to contribute and get involved with your group. And so by doing that, I basically had, about 20 people come in and start sharing some of the emerging trends. And then we would start a back and forth conversation on each one of those, saying like, well, who could present on that? Like, and basically started identifying people. So, you'll see like SMS and texting turned into a big topic. Online security was something people flagged. We talked a little bit about blockchain. We talked about VR, and we sourced some presenters all through the chats as people started pulling in each other through this Facebook conversation. And of course, for those who are more in LinkedIn, LinkedIn, of course, would be another great platform for that. And so going through that process, then I identified 5 presenters. And so I basically brought them up and they went bang, 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 5 presenters doing 10 minutes each. I had a lot of attendees because each one of those presenters now would recruit in all of their friends and coworkers to come see them present at the event. So it also had these people helping to do some promotion. And then I had someone assigned to do Facebook Live video. And so at the end of that, I actually had a really quick and dirty blog post I could put together. And so all I did was write 2 sentences and then just start embedding into the page people's like video clips and then the slides. And there it is, video clips and slides. And that's given me some social media content that I can now be using for the next month. So just scheduled out a whole bunch of tweets. And so that's been really helpful for me and one of the biggest successes I've had. And again, I didn't have to do anything except for basically start a conversation on Facebook. And then anyone who put up their hands, I'm like, guess what? If you have an opinion, you're now a presenter. And so that worked out really well for me. Anyone else tried a similar kind of event where they've crowdsourced the ideas from their membership? Well, then let me do one last thing here. So I'm just going to turn on the screen share as well and talk a little bit about one of the other initiatives I've got going on this year. So traditionally, we've just said to you as organizers, you're in charge. You find the topics, come up with the presenters, and that's still the case. I still think that the best NetSquared events are really locally sourced because then it's telling a story that really resonates with people because it's about their peer organizations. But sometimes when you're a new organizer or you're stuck on a topic, because coming up with 10 to 12 topics a year is hard, I also got some suggested topics. And I also gave some suggested months, but of course, you're not tied to the actual timing. And so for each one of these topics, I will be creating a really quick event recipe. So you'll see the one I just created for January around nonprofit technology. We've also got one around the social media surgery format that Paul created. And Steve, in March, we're probably going to do some events around live streaming and Periscope, and we'll bring in people to talk about that for some of our local groups. And here's what these recipes really look like. So, so what I'm basically going to do is just start filling this out about a month before each event. And so this event recipe is just going to give you a nice overview around the timing, the equipment, the venue you might kind of need. Then we'll talk a little bit about what kind of format. Is it a lecture or a workshop? And then we'll give some tips on how to recruit presenters. And again, I would say like turn to your past presenters and people in your community first. It's always the best place to find your speakers. And then what I'll add but haven't done yet is obviously give you an event title and an event description that you can cut and paste. I'll give you a tip. I'm usually just stealing that from a group that's already done that in the topic and then making some edits. And I strongly suggest you to steal event ideas from other groups if you're ever stuck. And I'll show you the link actually, which shows all upcoming events if you're ever curious about that. I've also created a little graphic that you can use on Meetup because I recently did a redesign which now creates these graphics that show up in social media posts, and it'll help just give your event a bit of a visual look. And then I'm also going to include for people who need some inspiration, some blog posts. And then I've also sourced sample posts, slides from SlideShare, as well as webinar videos. So if you can't find a presenter, but you still want to do those topics, one way you can come at that is to show a webinar for half an hour or 45 minutes and then lead a discussion locally. So that's sort of always your backup solution should you struggle to find a presenter. But of course, live speakers always resonate more. So that's something I'll be reaching out to each month as I prepare each one of these packages. And so these can be cut and paste events that you need to put together with your only job being to start reaching out and finding a local presenter. So that's what I wanted to share here. Let me throw it back to Paul, who wanted to show some of the events he's put together.
I'd also, just to say that I think that's really useful and it's going to be really beneficial for some of the smaller groups. So in the UK, we do have some small groups that maybe only have 5 or 6 attendees on a regular basis. So having those recipes, taking some of that pressure off the organisers is really good. So thank you for that, and for everything that goes into the organisers wiki, which is a fabulous resource. Yeah, just very briefly want to just pull up a couple of meetups just to give you sort of examples of what I was talking about. I've just lost the, I can't share the screen, and we'll go there. Okay, so I just mentioned this now. I talked about it earlier on, but the NetSquared webpage is a really good resource, a really good way to find other meetups happening around the world, around your area, and to see what sort of topics they're talking about. So yeah, cybersecurity has been talked about. The meetup in Switzerland, where that is being the topic there. Technology with young people at a Tech for Good meetup in London. But I just want to bring up on that tab there. So I talked a little bit about the surgery format, and the meetup group in Cambridge in England regularly hosts NetSquared social media surgery format events. As it says there, hands-on help with social media. So small non-profit organisations not quite sure how they can use some of these topics. It sort of, in some ways, seems a little bit strange, maybe, if that's the right word, where a lot of us will have been on Facebook and Twitter for almost sort of 10 years or so now, but actually there are still a lot of small non-profit organisations that do struggle with this technology. In my area of work, I work with a lot of very small local community organisations, maybe older people and small groups that want to know how they can get started and create a Facebook page or use LinkedIn for good. So we run surgery sessions, which is, as it says, their hands-on help, and there are some pictures there of that sort of style meetup, if that's going to come up. It's not the picture that yeah, okay. Talked about digital storytelling. So we used the Story Makers event and based an event around that. I'm just going to, yeah. So we're looking at how small non-profits can share their stories online. And the other one, which if anybody is needing to run a session about general data protection regulations, then this meetup that NetSquared London ran just November last year is worth having a look at the page here. There are a lot of resources that we put together that the TechSoup office in London have written around this topic. And yeah, a really good discussion. Something else just to share with you is how the meetup pages are a great source of continuing discussions after the meetup and between meetups. So if you weren't able to be there, then jump into the meetup group after the session and ask some questions. You'll find people who attended that are willing to share their thoughts, share their tips that they picked up from the meetup, and also the organizer will usually put slides and resources and handouts up there as well, links to them. Okay, I think I've got those were just sort of my thoughts around meetups. If there's anything specific that people want to ask about surgeries or formats for meetings, any questions about how to get the right people, then I'd be happy to answer any of those. And also, I suppose the question that we need to ask is whether or not this has inspired and helped people to change that poll and have more ideas for the future. Do you want to jump in there? Hello, Eli.
Yeah, I'm here. So
Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
certainly. Sorry, my apologies. So just a heads up to acknowledge that we're at the end of the hour we've scheduled. So for those who need to leave now, I completely understand and I really appreciate your time here. Know that we will be posting this video by Monday if you need to go back and review any of this. And of course, both myself and Paul are available with any questions, and I'll also share some of the key links that came out of the chat window. For those who can stay for another 10 minutes, and I'm amongst those, I think this is also a chance for us to have a more general Q&A. I know Carmen had some questions more specifically around finding co-organizers and recruiting other people who can contribute as leaders in her community and in neighboring cities. Are there others who had some specific questions they wanted to have addressed while we're all here together today? Carmen, what's your audio situation like? Are you able to reach us by voice yet? Sadly, no. That's a disappointment. But yeah, why don't we actually? There's a great piece. So speaking of interesting topics and something I stole from another group, Vanessa, do you want to talk a little bit about what your group in Victoria calls the Needs Parade and like when you use it in your groups?
Sure, yeah. As we're coming to the end of our discussion, it reminded me about something that we do at the end every time, which is really popular. And we let people know it's coming at the beginning, that we're going to do what we call a needs parade. So people have a strict 30 seconds, and Dan, our main organizer, is very strict about those 30 seconds, and so we keep it moving. And you come to the front, form a line, because there's usually a few people want to say something, and you can express your need for whatever you are looking for at that time, whether it's you're looking for a job, you're looking for someone to fill a job. We've had people looking for a bandmate, for a drummer, I think he's still looking, and whatever you need at that time. And we have all sorts of mostly related, some unrelated things that people are looking for, and usually they do get met because we have the mingling session right after. Then they find people in the room that they connect with and can either solve that problem or, oh, I know a guy who can help you out with that issue. And it's really good. It's really popular for us, and It's sort of the bit that people look forward to at the end, to sort of a bit of light relief to finish the session. So.
Yeah, I
Vanessa, do you
agree.
find that sometimes that even goes on to build a topic for a future meetup, if it's a topic that a lot of people are asking about?
When people are looking for something a bit specific, and then the room might say, "Oh yeah, me too," and then yeah, definitely that sometimes that can spur a topic, and we do definitely listen to people in terms of, you know, let us know if you've got a particular topic. And something we also did, which was really popular, was a panel discussion and it was, I think we just called it Women in Tech. And we've got a lot of great women leaders in tech, in the tech community. And, you know, it's like the Women's March tomorrow, so that came to mind. And yeah, it was really interesting to see the people in different areas of work who have climbed the ranks and talked about their challenges of being a woman in that, you know, a woman in tech, which can be challenging and sometimes, you know, usually a bit lonely as well. So it was good to pull those people together, and a panel discussion keeps the conversation moving when, you know, if the questions might dry up a little bit from the audience, then they can play off each other as well.
Yeah, I like that. And certainly here in Vancouver, we've made the Needs Parade a standard part of our end of event process. Usually we have like between 5 and 8 people line up. I give them up to a minute because I'm very generous. And we found that people really respond because it is a great way for people to connect. And out of that, here in Vancouver, we had an example where a new developer showed up in town and said, I'm working on a Salesforce project. I want 3 nonprofits to help me basically build out the needs of the product. And so they came together and over the course of a month and a half, built out a tax receipting module for Salesforce that Canadian nonprofits are now using, and is available for free on the Salesforce app directory. So there's a good example of where we use that moment to connect people to come up with something of value to other nonprofits.
And people also use it to promote not just needs, but telling people about events as well. So a fundraiser they might be having, or things like that, and, you know, similar related events to NetSquared even. So it's great.
Perfect. Good. So I want to come back to Carmen's question around co-organizers, which I think is definitely the secret to sustainability. And so Carmen, working with TechSoup South Africa, has a wider remit where she's trying to identify organizers in other cities. But let's just start with the idea of, like, how do we find co-organizers in our own city? And then we'll talk a little bit about how to kickstart groups in other cities. And then I actually can talk about the Amsterdam example, which is something I participated in recently, where I was actually part of a kickstarting event. So I would say for local co-organizers, the secret is to lie to people. No one puts up their hand and says, like, I want to become forever until my dying day a co-organizer of this group. People run away screaming from that opportunity. They don't get excited. So what I do in Vancouver is I basically ask people if they want to come and be the producer of just one event. And I swear to them, it'll be super easy. I say, like, I'll handle the venue. I'll make sure everything gets up on Meetup. Your only job is just to, like, find the presenter, manage that, introduce them at the beginning of the event, do a little bit of event marketing, but it'll be easy and it's just one event. And what I find is about 2/3 of the people who put up their hands never organize an event. They fail and they disappear, which is great because then you haven't invested in that co-organizer. And it means you just skipped one event as opposed to now having a big gap in your events. But for those 1/3 of people who successfully launched the event and they had a lot of fun, then I go up to them and say, like, hey, want to do it again? And so I found that give them one test event and then bring them into the co-organizer team has been a really successful strategy. And I end every single event like clockwork saying, during the Needs Parade, is basically I do the example. And my example always is, hi, I'm Eli. I'm one of the co-organizers. I'm looking for someone who wants to come on and be a producer of one event. Do you have an interesting topic that this community needs to know about? And then the other way I find co-organizers in my city is anyone who expresses even the mildest interest after that prompt at the end of get involved in some way, be they, I want to be your photographer, I want to help at the registration desk. I add all of those people to a Google group. And then all I do is once a month, about a week before my event, I send out a doodle poll saying, here's the 5 roles we need to get scheduled for this upcoming event. Sign yourself up. And that's how I start month after month identifying of those people who's actually reliably showing up. And then the people who have reliably showed up for 3 months in their smaller role, again, I recruit them in to the major role. But I really give people an easy in, and then I do the recruitment. So that's what I've done around co-organizers. And you'll see I mapped some of that out in a link I just dropped into the chat window. The bigger piece, which is if you want to start organizing groups around your city, you're just like, oh, there's a neighboring city that should definitely have a group, and I don't know why they don't. One of the ways I recruit new organizers is through referrals. And those referrals happen in 2 ways. Sometimes someone like Paul says, I met someone amazing at a conference. You should totally talk with them and let's see if they want to get involved. And that actually works out really well. The other way we find new organizers is someone used to go to, say, NetSquared Vancouver. They move to Toronto, and suddenly they're like, why isn't there an active NetSquared group here? Like, that seems ridiculous. And I'm like, you're right. Maybe you should start one. And so that can help a little bit too. Sometimes you'll have the opportunity to do a kickstarting event. So on this recent trip where I was also in London, I also was in Amsterdam for a weekend. And so I took advantage of that to reach out to a couple people on LinkedIn and said, why don't you come and join me for just a real tester event? We're just going to get together once, and we'll have a couple drinks. I'll talk a little bit about what NetSquared is. We'll do a show and tell where people can talk about what interesting work is going on in the community. And then at the end, I'm like, and if you're interested in getting more involved, write your name down on this piece of paper, and then I will harass you afterwards for the next couple months. That worked pretty well in Amsterdam. We identified about 3 people who wanted to get involved. So Serkan, why don't you tell me, as someone who was at that event,
definitely.
What was useful about that event?
I was already involved in this area, so I was really curious. The only thing that I thought I could be, I wouldn't find enough time to be a co-organizer. But we talked twice, and then, your approach basically convinced me to become a co-organizer. And also, I'm really lucky that the other co-organizer, he's very experienced, Sergey. He knows the venue, and he knows how to arrange most of the things, let's say. So it's for me, it's a very easy. I can easily fill this role, let's say, for the moment, and I'm enjoying it. And if we can have a good start, I really want to keep doing it, let's say, and let's see how it goes. But yeah, your approach definitely works.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that worked. And Carmen, I think there's one other interesting approach you can take. So I know that you're planning a series of Tech for Good groups, or no, not groups, but just one-off events in several cities across South Africa and the region in the next little while. And what I've done for similar Tech for Good events, actually, in other cities, is these can be great opportunities to recruit someone to become a monthly organizer, because the people who signed up to go to these events have passed the biggest threshold, which is these are people who've already shown that they think it's important for nonprofit techies to get together in a room together. And so the fact that they signed up for that event is a great sign. But of course, at the end of the event, they're all going to go away and be very sad because they're like, this event was amazing. When will it happen again? And you're like, maybe never, maybe in a year. And so this is a great opportunity. And I've actually got some sample slides I can send you, which basically you get to say, if you thought this event was really great, why don't we continue the conversation? And so it could just be, let's get together over beers, come talk to me, and I'll help set you up with a meetup so you can sort of schedule that event. And so these in-person events can be a perfect opportunity for you to recruit people with the soft ask of, why don't we continue this conversation? We'll invite all the attendees into the next meeting. So that might be one approach that could work for you. But I agree, starting new groups is difficult. And I won't lie to you and say it's going to work every time. I would say 3/4 of the people who come to me and say, I want to start a new group, don't succeed. So you just need to really set your expectations. And I'm always very cautious to put a very small investment in training for new organizers until they've stepped up and actually successfully scheduled an event. And then I'll give them a bit more of my time. But at the beginning, be stingy with your time, because otherwise people who are flaky will suck up all your time. So actually, I need to leave now for my next appointment, but I'm super grateful for all of you to come here, and I'm really extra super grateful to Paul, who came and acted as co-host today, because you guys listen to me all the time, and it must get boring. And so I'm glad to have other people come in, bring other voices to the forefront. I hope to be doing one of these on about a quarterly basis on different topics. So please reach out to me if you want to lead a conversation on any kind of NetSquared topic. I'd be happy to come here and co-host with you, and we can put together one of these conversations, because I want to put you guys at the front of the room, so it's not just the Eli show.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity to be able to have this this conversation. It is difficult to get everyone together, obviously face to face, but I think there is a lot that we can do, and a lot we can learn from each other, and the different meetup formats and recruitment of organisers that we all do. So it's been useful. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, then I'm going to hit the stop recording button. But again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we're always here to help. Know that. So don't be shy about scheduling me for a call, sending me an email. I might take me a couple days to reply, but I'm always there for you.
Okay, thanks so